Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Declan's Autism Journey podcast. Thais is back joining me for a second time, which I'm so excited you're here. Hi, friend.
Hi, I'm super excited to be here too.
I love that you're here, and I love that we're matching without even planning.
It's the connection.
That's right. It's the mom connection for sure. So today, Thais and I have talked a lot about this and what we wanted to share on today's episode. But what I wanted to start with first, I'm going to give a little update on Declan, and then I'll turn it over to Thais to give an update on Elena and her fashion choices, of course. But I wanted to start by really talking about Declan and where he is. On the last episode, I talked about taking back financial control, really talking about taking or making choices not based in fear. And those were all huge things. And I think really pushed Tim and I into like another feeling like we're just really in control. And even though I say I'm always driving Declan's bus, I was driving it, but I had no idea where I was going. And I feel like now I feel like I know where I'm going, or at least that I'm truly in control, which feels good, right? Like it just feels so yucky when you're operating in fear, and then that leads into like the emotional struggles that you have already and adds to that, right? And then it just feels really cavernous and overwhelming, and so it feels good to be in control. But one of the things I also shared was that we pivoted a bit, and we found a neurologically focused chiropractic team, where Dec started at 5 adjustments a week, brought it down to 4. Now he's at 3, and he'll stay at 3. It's kind of the sweet spot for probably the next couple months. So it's definitely a long-term process. And we're committed to that. But what we've also done is we've paused the Malillo method. So I want to be really transparent on this. That's the most important thing to me, is that I am sharing our true journey with Declan. And, our family mantra is pivot. So we just pivot as things come up. And when this neurologically focused chiropractic care came into the universe for us, and we vetted it, not in fear, but with a rational mind, and we decided to add it to our plate. We really felt like we needed to give Declan's nervous system time to adjust to all these adjustments that are being made to his body. And through the chiropractic work, they do 3 different types of scans for Dec in the beginning. They were doing it every week. So we could kind of see the changes that were being made, which was awesome. And so there's data to support what we're doing. And there's data to support the wreck of a nervous system that he had, right? And the dysregulated nervous system that he had. And we're seeing it start to regulate, but we also recognize that it's pretty deep rooted. So we've got to give this a lot of time. And what we wanted to do was just kind of pause everything else around him, including the Malillo method, because as we've talked about, Thais, it is time consuming. I still also want to be really clear that I 100% believe in it. We will add it back to Declan's plate for sure when his scans start to show that his nervous system is more regulated. And the thought being that his body will be better able to receive it. And then that means hopefully the gains will be even greater. And I'm on board with that. And again, our family mantra is pivot. So this is kind of where we're at right now. But we've also paused music therapy. I really talked about taking that financial control back. And while we absolutely love our music therapist, that is something we've done for several years, almost weekly. In the summer, we did it twice a week. And that is really costly. And I just felt too, like, again, I just needed to take control of every facet. And so that's where Declan is. Even our speech, what we're really, really focusing on right now, 2 things: the chiropractic care and spelling. And he is moving up to the 26 letter board. He now won't even touch the 3 stencil boards. He's like, no way, lady. Like, I'm too advanced for that. Give me the big one. And so we're really working on being precise, and that's going to lead to that open communication, which is just what that's what I'm so desperate for at this point. It's not the words. It's just a mode of communication. And I know it's coming. And so that's where Declan is. And again, Thais and I we were talking about this before we started recording, and just always want to be transparent. I want to be truthful. I'm not aligned. I don't get any type of financial benefit from sharing our story in any way. I'm truly just a mom who felt like we've done so much, we've spent so much money, we've invested so much time and hope into things. And I just hope by sharing our story, we can help others. And that also means, that I'm not financially affiliated with anyone. And so I would never do anything other than share our truth, because I think that's really important. And then the last thing I want to say before I turn over to my friend is a lot of people have reached out. And especially after my last podcast episode, I think that touched a lot of people. And I'm grateful for everyone reaching out. I really appreciate the kind and supportive words. But I just want to clarify, I am not a professional. I am a mom on a mission. No one's going to stop me. But, I share my story to hopefully help others, but I'm not a professional. And so, my message here is always listen to your gut. If my story helps you think of things to do for your child or to try, doesn't mean they're going to work. But that's the goal of this. And so, I try to respond to every email, and that's usually how I respond, is like, I'm not a professional. You got to, find what works for you. But I just truly hope that this podcast helps you navigate your journey, because it is a difficult one.
Yes, it is a difficult one. And I think this is the one of the big purposes of making this podcast, because it's we need to share our stories in order to process this whole thing too, right? And going back to what you said in the beginning, Diane, about like the fear and the anxiety and all the emotional elements that are involved and present in this whole process of getting a diagnosis, finding the best solution, not solution, because I don't think we'll ever get to a final solution,
right.
But, trying to understand which path to take. And this is very, very, very scary, and it's very fresh. So I still have that feeling of like being scared and trying to absorb all the information and trying to understand what that means for my child, for Elena, what it means now, what responsibility I have in what is going on with her now, and what does that mean for her future, and where are we going to get the help that she needs. So that's super scary. And I think there are different moments that you're like overwhelmed with the information, and then you're doing things, but you're like driving the bus, but you don't know where you're going, right? And then after a while, you have the possibility to process all that, and then you can drive it in a more controlled manner, right? Because you went through that already. So I totally get what you're saying from the beginning, like the fear and the anxiety and where you are right now.
Right.
And I feel the same way. And it's a good place to be where we are right now. But we
yes, for sure. I would not go back. I would not go back. But I think that's what drives the desire to help others, is because it was other moms. I mean, to think about where I was. I mean, I can get so emotional. I can go right back to that spot. I mean, I still remember calling my sister, and it was like July 2nd. And I was like, okay, I have to admit it, and we're talking 2021. And I go right back to it, because that was really the true start of me acknowledging that Declan was on the spectrum. And then that just opened the floodgates of emotion, because I had just been living in denial and I hadn't accepted that he was on the spectrum. I was still clinging to hope that he had just sensory processing disorder, or was just a little quirky and funny, but once I acknowledged that and spoke that truth, it was like the emotions got even greater, which I wasn't expecting. but because I was acknowledging that he was on the spectrum.
Yes. Yes. And the same here with Elena. And it was a long process for me. And Elena, she has dyslexia and ADHD. So it's a little bit different. But still I worry as a mom, because it's not only about like what her diagnosis is in sense of the dyslexia, because people think dyslexia as a reading problem, but it's much more than that, right? So that's something that I want to talk about today too, that also takes us to what you're saying about the not sticking to one method and bringing like many people on board. Because when you think of when you hear dyslexia, you think about reading issues, reading and writing issues, but in essence it is a developmental disorder, so it affects many areas of that child's life, not just reading. Reading and writing is just the later part of it, right?
It's probably the easy part to see, right? Like it's the easiest part to
Exactly. It is the tip of the iceberg. It's whatever is outside on the surface, so it's easier to identify and see. But there are many, many, many issues that started before that, right? Way before that. And that I noted, like in my case, I noticed since she was little, and nobody could help me identify or find a solution for that, right? So the reason why I think it's important to say that is because once we get the diagnose and then we start searching for answers and trying to find ways to help her, we found one method that made a lot of sense, which was the Malolo method. And that made sense because Elena had all her primitive reflexes present. She had underdeveloped vestibular system, low muscle tone. She had all problems that Dr. Malolo described. And we started her treatment. We started like the real treatment, the one that I think that helps her with the Malolo method. But now we are doing something else because we did the Malolo method intensively for 1 year, and that got her started. That got her going. That made a difference because everything that we were doing before didn't really help, right?
And it put you on a good track too as the mom, right? Like the Malolo method made you feel heard and gave you answers, which are all incredible things that us moms don't normally get at doctor's appointments.
100%, because everything that I questioned about her development, I've always brought to her pediatrician or to other therapists, and nobody gave me an answer. Nobody even acknowledged what I was saying. So with Dr. Malolo, that was the first time that everything made sense since birth. Everything made sense. And that's why I was like, well, this guy knows what he's talking about because everything makes sense now. So we got her like going with this, and we did it for 1 year intensively every day, like we talked before. And now we paused it too, not because I don't think she doesn't need it. I think she needs it, and I think it's very important, but just because time is a limited resource. So we don't have time to do all the therapies that she needs. And because I think when we're talking about developmental disorders, there's so much that's going on there that cannot be explained or taken care by only one method or one professional, right?
Yeah, I completely agree.
So everything that we did with the Malolo method was important, made sense. She needed, and she still needs it, and she got her going. But now we are in a phase that we are dedicating our time also to getting some other help with the integrative medicine, functional medicine. So we're treating, which was very hard to get here in Brazil. It's super hard to find a professional that does that here. And I know there in the States, there are more professionals that work with that. But here it's just so hard to find someone who truly understands about that part. So we are doing right now, we are like treating her for leaky gut and fungal infection, parasites.
Yep.
We are doing some supplements for her special necessities, what she needs. And since we started doing that, I've seen improvements and great, it's amazing. And I think, we're doing we're detoxifying her too, because
Okay.
we found out that she has some heavy metal intoxication. So we started all that. And it's a lot to take in. So I cannot do both things at the same time,
Right.
school and she's doing some speech therapy, some therapy for her hearing, auditory process for her hearing.
Okay.
The central auditory processing. She's doing some therapy for that too. So it's a lot. So we stopped the Malilla method, but the way I see it is just that it was so important for us in our story to start with that, because her system was so underdeveloped that I think that if we had started with detoxifying all this other part not before,
Mm-hmm.
then her little body would not be able to really undergo the process of detoxifying.
Yep. Yeah, because it is a process. Exactly. The body needs to be ready to do that. I agree.
Yes, and you have to get the nervous system mature enough so it can work in a way that will help you remove all those toxins from your body. So for me, that was really important. So that's where we are right now. So Elena right now is not doing the Malilla method directly. We're still like, because it's all like, it's in my mind all the time. So I'm like,
Right.
she's doing it like in other ways. Like when she listens to music, I just put it on one side of her ear, or she's doing like figure skating because I know will help her with the cerebellum and things like that.
For sure. That's awesome.
So we're doing little things like that. And we are really focusing on taking care of this organic heart of her treatment now. And putting all together, it's amazing. Like, wow, this is really incredible. Like when we started this journey, what professionals offered us here for Elena was to go to take Ritalin and
Um,
to do more reading lessons. And I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine if we had taken that path? I mean, poor girl. And so much has happened since then, right? That then my point is that in the beginning, we are in this overwhelmed with this information and processing the diagnosis and trying to understand what's going on with our kid and what that means for their future. And then once you start progressing and you move on into this good path, it's easy to forget where you started, like, because I always want more for Elena. I always want her to be better. And I think every mom is like that, right?
Yep.
You're always trying to make your kid better.
Yep.
And but I think it's important to remember for us to be like, yeah, good job, where we started and how far we have come
Yeah.
in their development, right? And I think of Elena and her early signs and the way she was functioning when we started all this, and I look at her now, and she's a different kid. No,
I love
she's a
that.
different kid. She
Yeah.
has developed so much, and that's it. And I still want more, but then I want to focus on what we've gained also, not only on what we still have to do. I think
Yes.
that's
I love that you're saying that. And I completely agree. I think for so long, I was so hyper focused on the diagnosis and my fears and fixing autism and like kicking its butt and like, no way, like it met its match with us. Like, and I like lost sight of the fact I think many times that Declan was like a baby. You know, he was 3 when we got the formal diagnosis. He was 4 when we rolled into Dr. M's office, you know, little, like he's little. And I was so, and I think too, because he wasn't typically developing. I mean, I look at my little one, Cooper, now, who's 2, almost 3, and I now see the stark differences between the two. My oldest and Declan are 6 years apart. So by the time Declan came around, I just almost like didn't pick up on the differences, you know, because he and my oldest were in such different places, and it had been so long, it felt, since I had a little one. But now with my new little one, you know, he wants to be independent. He wants to do everything. He wants to climb in and out of the car on his own. He wants to eat with a fork. He wants to do things like that. And every time Cooper does something, I'm like, it's just a reminder that Deck didn't do those things, you know, that he was there, and I just didn't really, I saw it, but I don't think I could admit it. And also some things I just didn't know, you know, I didn't know.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Just you saw it, but you didn't know what it meant. You didn't know what it was. Right. There was no name for it. It wasn't clear. So it was more like a feeling, right? That something was off.
It was not a big deal to me at all that he didn't want to use a fork. You know, that Declan didn't want to use a fork. I didn't care. I was like, okay. Like, I was like, oh, I'm so laid back. Like, yeah, just eat with your hands. You know, I don't care. Like, he'll eat with a fork one day. I didn't give it much credence. I just was like, okay. And and we were going through this during COVID too. So it was like so much was happening, you know, and we were in our house and we were only seeing each other. And I don't know, I think when you're together all the time, you don't know those things. It just becomes your normal. But I think if I could do things differently, and this is what we're really trying to do now, is like, with pausing the Malillo method, because I was religious. Like, I was hardcore. I didn't give Declan or I much grace to miss a session. And if we did miss a session, I was like angry and upset and felt like I was failing him. And I was so militant that he was 4, 5, you know, and I'm making him do this like this. I mean, it was like he had to really be sick for me to miss a session. And even then I was like, okay, you're better. Let's do it. Let's get back to it. And so I find now too, like, again, part of that, like, we're just in this new realm of like emotional control. And if we miss a chiropractic session, okay, we pick ourselves up and we move on, and we just, and we haven't, because it is really important. But it's okay if we do. You know, I don't panic that I'm losing time and that I'm not doing my job as his mom. And that's where I was before. And I think also too, like, pausing the Malillo method, because we did it religiously for a year and a half, almost 2 years, twice a day, every day. It's just given us time to breathe back. You know, and so instead of on Saturday mornings, we're up and we're on this vibrating plate and I've got all this stuff going, we're going out for a nature walk, or we're going for a walk around the neighborhood. And, you know, it's not Declan and I siloed in my office doing his work while my husband's taking care of the other 2 or keeping them entertained. We're like making a conscious effort to do things together. And that, again, it just feels really good. And I want other moms to just hear that and not beat yourself up if, you know, you're missing a session. It's okay. It's okay to remember your kid is your kid, and to treat them like a child, and to just love them. So my favorite moments now with Declan are no longer doing therapy together, but they're laying on the couch snuggled and I'm giving him deep squeezes, you know, like that just didn't happen for a long time, because I was like, get on the machine. We got to go. We got to do the Malillo method. And again, I don't want that to sound negative, because we will go back to it, but I will be more in control of how I interject Malillo method back into our lives.
Because it is a different moment. What I mean is that maybe at that time when you did it that way, and I did it that way too, for me personally, Diane, it meant hope. It wasn't just about the rehab,
Yes.
the neurological rehab. There was a meaning to it, to me personally. It meant this is it, this is hope. And that's why I jumped into it so intensively too, because there was an emotional meaning for
Yes.
me personally.
Agreed.
and 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 I think it's important to mention that too, because of course, like, we can miss sessions, and we understand that now because we went through that
Mhm.
already. And for me personally, at that moment, I didn't even want to hear somebody telling me that I can, that there's something else you can do. You don't have to do that. Or no, because this is it. This is my hope. This is how I can help my kid. And I don't even want to hear about any, people saying that this
Mhm.
is not going to work or whatever, or because that had such a greater meaning for me, right?
Yes.
And I think also we can, because we went through that already, we are here now in a different moment, and we can take a walk in the forest and miss a session. But I think because we've done the intense part also, right? I think it's part of a process, I
Yes.
think,
Yeah.
like
It's
maturing.
a journey. There's
Yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey. And I think I think that when we're talking about developmental disorders and recovering and getting back on track with the development is such a long-term goal that you have to split into shorter goals.
yes.
Short-term goals. So for me at that time was doing the little method. Let's do it. Everything. That was my my short-term goal for 1 year. Now
Yep.
we change, but because we've done that, I can change, right? For me personally. So we changed that a little. Now we're doing other things. So I'm like, okay, now our goal is to recover her physically, in the sense of like her, her dysbiosis and her nutritional uh,
Mm-hmm.
issues and all of that. So that's my goal right now. And maybe not for sure, this will change in a little bit, and I'll add other things, right?
Yep.
And other things will be added on, because it's so um it's such a complex situation, and whatever is going on with our kids is just so complex that we have to do many things, and we
Yeah.
cannot do it all at once.
Yep. I
So
agree.
we have to do what makes sense at that moment.
Yep.
So, right. So for you right now, doing the chiropractic work, which is awesome. I wish we had exactly that here, but we don't. That makes sense,
Right.
right now where you guys are. And for me, something else. So I think, yes, I think it's important to allow yourself this flexibility to change short-term goals, but
Yeah.
understand that you have like a long-term objective goal, which is like to get your kid better, right?
Yeah.
To give the best chance for him to go through life.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like that's almost scary. Like when we found MERT therapy and we moved to Florida, like, okay, that was it. And then, I hadn't yet developed that mantra of pivoting. I was just literally like a ping pong ball. And if I heard one thing, I didn't care how much money it cost. I didn't like care
Yes.
about the research. I just was, if I heard one mom say it, she saw improvement, like we did it.
Yeah.
And even up until last year, I think we did that. We did umbilical cord blood and stem cell infusion for Declan. And
I remember you
yeah,
telling me
I
that.
mean, listen, I stand by that, and I would do it again. If we had loads of cash sitting around, I would absolutely do that. My mom gut tells me that is a part of the secret sauce. Like, like it's a piece of the puzzle. I think it's an important piece. But it's like $10,000 for one 10-minute IV infusion. And
Right.
that just isn't sensible financially for us. And so we've made the choice. We're not going to do it right now. And we're hoping and praying it is FDA approved, because it is approved for other other, challenges like cerebral palsy, things like that. So there is hope that it will get approved for autism. And I know Duke has done a couple studies, additional studies on it. And the provider, the physician we found, went to Duke Medical School. So luckily he's got like the know about studies and things like that coming out. But at the end of the day, the cost of that, if it's not FDA approved and then ultimately it remains private pay, is only going to increase, because the cost is based on the number of cells that they infuse. And the smaller you are, the less cells you get. So as Declan grows and gets bigger, it's just going to become more and more costly. So, if our baseline is $8,200, it's only going to get a lot more. And so, that, again, just taking control and making that decision. But we did it because I found it and I was like, we're doing it. I don't care how much it costs. And my husband is, thank God, a saint, and was just like, okay, like, sure, probably not a great choice, but let's do it, and that's kind of how it's gone with us, is like, but I think it's all that journey. And almost like how I think of, like, I know like Alcoholics Anonymous is like, their mantra is like one day at a time. And I feel like that's mine in this special needs mom journey, because, if I think about like 10 years from now, if I think about 40 years from now, that is kind of scary. I'm a lot less scared than I ever was before, because I know Declan is communicating. I know mentally he's intact and superior. So, and I know that there is this recognition beyond just a small community that these non-speakers are there, and they're savants, geniuses, whatever you want to call them. And so I really do believe, over the next 10, 20 years, like, there are going to be communities of non-speakers. And so I know Declan, no matter what happens to Tim and I know that he will be with his people. And we still pray that words will come, but it is no longer.
Because I think there's so much being developed in this area, like the rebels. There are the professionals who bring us all this resources, that they're increasing in number, and I think there's going to be more resources to help.
Yes, for sure. And I think
the need for resources are there too. So I think we have some resources right now, of course, but I think there's going to be more. So the chances that they're going to get better and better and better are great, I think,
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's just, I no longer like get stuck on words like recovery or even words, like I really am not stuck on those things. This podcast now has been almost around, I think, a year. And I can't believe it. But I even think back to like my first episode when I did it, and what I was talking about is, my evolution in 1 year has been, a complete 180. Yes, I'm still fighting, but I'm so much more at peace in my heart, in my soul, just in every piece of me. I'm so much more at peace than I was when I started this podcast. And that doesn't mean I'm not fighting every day for him, but I recognize that my fight is different. Like, I have this sense of calmness about me, because I also 100% believe Declan is there, right? Like, when I walked into Dr. M's office and he told my husband and I, oh, he's smarter than all three of us combined, like, I wanted to believe that so badly, but I was literally like afraid to give it hope. I was like, because I didn't have proof. I still thought Declan's cognitive ability matched his output, which was basically zero, right? And now I know that's the farthest thing from the truth. So I don't feel like I have to fight the school system. I don't feel like I have to fight strangers, like, and when I say fight, I mean like just
I understand.
Like, do I advocate? I think advocate now is maybe a better word, is how I feel, rather than fighting. I used to feel like I was fighting and clawing for him to get just to be treated appropriately. And I don't feel that way anymore. But I think that's because of where I am.
Right, because you've been through the process, right? You've
Yeah.
you've been through all that, and
Right.
you have matured into where you are right now. So I feel the same way. I feel the same way that I have matured into where I am right now.
Yeah.
So
And it
and
will keep going. You know, our
yeah,
journeys are going to keep going. You and I are going to keep evolving, which is exciting. You know,
yes.
when I think of like, if I can think of the next 5 years, you know, number one, Declan will be an open speller, right? Openly communicating.
Yeah.
And I would love for he and I to go into school systems and to teach special education teachers, to teach principals, to teach administration, you know, to
Mhm.
really open their eyes and get the message that
Make a
these,
difference.
yeah, that these kids are cognitively intact. They are not the 2-year-olds you think they are academically or, you know,
Yes.
or mentally or emotionally. They are cognitively there. They just can't show it. And what one thing I always think of is, you know, every time I say to someone, it can be someone new, it can, you know, he's a genius, he just can't show it. You know, of course, their answer is always like, oh, of course, of course. And meanwhile, I'm like, you don't think that for 1 second. You are
They don't even
totally,
get it. They don't know what you're talking about.
saying that because you know that's
Some people
politically
know.
correct.
I know what you're talking about, and I
You
totally
do.
agree.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I
But the
totally
average
get it.
person does not. You know, the average person, and I
Yeah,
want to say, I want to be clear, that was me. I was the average person.
of course,
I
we all will.
right like
Mhm.
I love when people ask questions. I love when, you know, people, oh, tell me, okay, he's non-speaking, tell me more like about that. I've never heard of that. Like, I love that response as opposed to, oh yeah, of course he's a genius. You know, you don't think he's a genius, you know. But so I
Uh-huh.
think it's just, I just am so excited for him because I just know he's on this right path. And I know that between the Malilla method, chiropractic, spelling, you know, that's a great trifecta right there. And
Mhm.
I'm also, I always remain open to anything else that comes into our universe at the right time because I know then it's meant to be.
Exactly. Yes, same here. And what I was thinking, and I was like, oh, I have to tell her that. It's just that one of the things, the reasons why I think I'm at peace, like you are right now, it's because I've expanded my the way I see progress, right? Uh Going back to what I said in the beginning about like people thinking that dyslexia is a reading problem. Well, I look at Elena now and I think she's doing so much better and I think she's doing great. But then if people ask me how she's reading, I'm like, well, she's reading more or less okay. Like no, it got better, but it's not where it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But my measure of success and progress is not by her reading, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's something that brings me peace too, because I see little things like things that we have to do in our daily lives that she wasn't able to do.
Mm-hmm.
No, she's doing it so well. And I'm like, wow, for me that's progress. For me
Yes.
that's success. And I don't care about the reading. I don't care if the reading is she's able to read everything by herself or she's capable of doing what other kids are doing in school. That's not important for me at this moment because I know that she is developing because I see all these other changes like she's not anxious anymore like she used to be because she says she had such an active moral reflex and
Mm-hmm.
she was always into alert and fight and flight
Yes.
response, so she was so anxious and because of her right brain overactivity also. But so she's so calm and she's more coordinated and she has more energy to do things. And she's able to do things by herself that she wasn't able to do before, like getting dressed. Not only like physically getting dressed, she wasn't able to do that at all. But now she can physically do it, but she can get mentally organized to do it on her own. And for me, that is like amazing. I was like, oh my God, I can leave her in her room.
Yep.
And she'll get dressed and take a shower and get dressed and get ready by herself. And for me, it's like, wow, this is not the same kid, because like a year and a half ago, she couldn't put her underwear on with me right next to her, telling her what to do. And this is
Yes.
what Betty was. She truly couldn't do it. Like she couldn't, like
Yeah.
motorly and cognitively, she couldn't do it. So I'm like, this for me brings me peace. You
Yep.
know, this for me is success.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
she couldn't, the feeling that I had was that she was truly disconnected before,
Mhm.
right? Truly, that what Dr. Malolo says. And she wasn't there, like she couldn't really connect to what was going on. Her mind seemed always somewhere else. And now she's, I think she's better connected than I am. So like, oh my God, maybe I should be doing all that on
Yeah, right?
myself.
Exactly. Don't think I haven't thought that too.
Yeah, we don't have time, right? We have to find time to do it. So for me, it doesn't really matter how the reading is at this moment. And
Yeah.
I know in Elena's situation is it's much less complicated than Declan, so it's different. But I, the point is to measure the progress, the small progress, the
Yeah.
little things. If it's like, oh my God, he's using a larger board than he did before with oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
No, it
It's huge.
doesn't matter that he's not speaking,
Correct.
because look at the progress. He's communicating.
Yes.
You know,
As you said, for you, reading was when you first started, that was the marker of success. And I think for me, when I look back, words were the marker of success. And I've gotten a lot of questions, emails like, is he talking yet? And it's like,
exactly.
no. But I'm okay with that, because that's no longer my indicator of success for Declan. It's just not.
Exactly.
But it was a year ago. Like when we walked into Dr. M's, I wanted him talking. Like, I prayed, and I still do, of course, but it's not my marker of success. I posted a little video of Declan and I, because I used to felt like he had no connection to me, which is a sad thing as a mom. I mean, to think like that's heartbreaking, but that's truly how I felt. I felt like he had no connection to me. I felt like I could go away and like someone could just come in and meet his basic necessities and he would be fine. He wouldn't even notice. And that is so far from where we are now. Like I now know how deeply connected we are. And I posted this little video of him spelling, and I have him spell dad and mom. And just a couple people, like friends and my sister, they all couldn't believe like how he looked at me. And I was like, you're right, like 100%. And that, to me, that's the progress I need, coupled with the fact that he's working towards open communication, because then I can truly help him. I can totally know what he's thinking and feeling. So that's the marker of success. And my sister said to me at the very beginning of all of this, she's like, you measure success in teaspoons, not tablespoons. And right. And like that from the beginning she's right, because this is a long journey. It's a slow journey. Do I want this? Yes. But I'll take that. Like I'll take a steady progress. That means more to me than anything. But I think that goes back to the mom evolution of, I was not that way in the beginning. I wanted him talking immediately. I wanted him saying, if I asked him to turn the light on, I wanted him to do it. I wanted to know he understood. And now it's like, it's just such a different place, but it's focusing on, for Declan, words are not the marker of his success at all in any way. They will be the cherry on top when they come one day, but
Exactly.
it's communication, and it's his happiness is my marker of success, and our connection.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly my point. And whatever what your sister said is just so beautiful, and I'm
She's
gonna
so
take
smart.
that. It's exactly that. Yeah, and that's how I feel, and I see all these little changes. They're invisible maybe to other people because they don't have to deal with that. They mean so much to me and to Elaine, and I know it means a lot to her too because she can tell that she's different and she's more independent. And before she wanted to be, she didn't say that she wanted to be independent because if she couldn't be independent, and in order not to get frustrated, she's like, I want my mom to do everything for me.
Right.
But now that she feels that she's able to be independent, she's like not fighting. Everything is like, Mom, I want to be independent. Mom, I want to be independent. I want to do
I
this.
love that.
And it's, that means nothing to other people, but to us, it means the
Mhm.
world,
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
So, I think that's like when you get the diagnosis and you understand it in a more global way, not just the meaning that you get, that people know, that is the description in in the DSM. When you get it into a more like global, when you go back into your lives and see all the signs that were there, everything that have been difficult, and when you understand that, not only you can get help for that, you can also measure your progress by that, not only by whatever is in the book, and did you
Yeah,
fix that? And that brings us happiness, and then we need that, right?
truly. I mean, I
And
think. Go ahead. Go ahead.
it just shows us that we're doing the right thing, that we're making good choices.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's hard. And we've said a couple times that I wish I could pick up other moms just starting out and like fast forward through all the stuff they're going to go through and just get to where we are, because where we are is a beautiful place that I truly never thought one day I would get to, let alone get to it, in 3 years. Um it has been such a gift to get to where we are. And the fact that Declan's future and our future as a family is really exciting. Like I know he's going to do amazing things as a non-speaker, and he's already changed so many people's perspectives. And I think he's just such a gift. And in the beginning, Tim and I never pitied ourselves. I want to be clear. Like, we were never like, why us? Why did this happen? We never felt like that. We never vocalized that. We never felt like that. Was I scared and fearful and all those big emotions? Of course, but I never felt why us. And now I recognize, wow, thank you, God, for choosing us. Like, thank you for giving us this gift of a human, because we are learning so much from him. It's changed our family dynamic in such a beautiful way. Are there challenges? For sure, of having a non-speaker. Have we gone through challenges? Yes. Will we go through challenges still? Sure. But it's just the frame of reference is so different than what it was when we started. And I just feel like that is just what I just wish I could just like tattoo and put on like a sign and like tell everybody, because I would have never believed for 1 second I would be sitting here saying, number one, Declan's a genius and he's going to change the world. And number two, I'm excited, beyond excited for our future to see what he's going to do. I just really would have never in a million years thought I would be saying those two things. I thought I would always say, thank you, God, for giving me this beautiful blessing, but I'm scared. I don't know that I know how to help him. And so to just be where we are is just like, wow, you have to share that.
Yes, and I think that's what you're doing with your podcast. You're showing like all these other moms that don't worry, things will get better. Maybe you're not there right now, and you have to go through this process because it is a process. You cannot like no, take a shortcut. You have to go through it, but things will get better, and soon you'll be here too. And
Right.
it's and that's why it's so beautiful to have like you making this podcast and bringing this message to all the other moms. The message that yeah, it's okay to be scared, or you're not the only one, and there's so many things that now that you're gonna go through, and it will get better, and you're gonna be
Yeah.
in a good place. Yes,
And I love that even though Elena and Declan are very different in their diagnoses, like
yes,
you and I are still on such a similar path as
yes,
moms, and like and I love that because it's not just me saying this is where I've gotten, it's you saying that where you've gotten. You have
yes.
are more at peace than ever before. You're helping Elena. You feel like you're more in control. I'm not an anomaly. I am I'm a mom, like,
Exactly.
right? And like if you just stay the course and you don't give up hope and you just keep fighting, knowing and believing that there is more for your child. Again, I always said in the beginning, I've always felt like from once I finally accepted it and could say the word autism, I felt like we were fighting from day one, but I was like, I never knew what we were fighting for. I really did. It's like driving the bus. Like I had no idea where I was going, but
Right.
I'm driving this bus and, I'm going to just do the best I can. And now it's like, oh, I know. Now I know 100% what we're fighting for. We know he's cognitively intact. I had no idea of that 3 years ago. I thought the opposite. So it's like just stay that course. Keep the hope alive, even though some days it's so hard. I think, especially if you don't feel like, for us, like I thought Declan truly was intellectually disabled. And I thought that's a very scary thought down the line for him, safety, mistreatment, all of those things. He would certainly be an easy target for certain bad individuals, right? And I still feel that way. Even sending him out to school, I always say to his teachers, like, you just have to understand, he can't tell me something bad happens to him. Like the fear that brings as a mom,
Mhm.
I'll always have that until he's open communicating. I just know that. But that's why I'm so cautious and try to just do my very best about who I allow near him, because you just never know.
Yeah. And I think it's in a different extent, of course, to different degree. I think moms in general have this worries, right? Like that something, no, how my kid's gonna go do in the world, and is he going to be able to deal with the challenges, and of course in different degrees. And but I think that, I mean, it's so important to have this place and this opportunity to share the fears, to share how things are going better, and also to pass on information. Because then nobody came knocking on my door and telling me what to do with my kid.
Yep.
Nobody came, oh, listen, Thais, come here, you know what, you can do this and you can do that. Nobody did that. And everything that I've done with Elena that worked, I did it because I've heard other moms talk about and share the information, and always also to understand what I was not only doing, not only therapy, not only to understand how she got into what she's into right now, but to understand my feelings and everything that we've gained in terms of emotional and therapeutical progress was because of moms like you that shared their experience and their journey, right, emotionally and also therapeutically. So
Yeah,
it
and I
is so
love it.
important. What you're doing is just so important.
Well, and it's so important that you're joining me, because, like we were saying before we start recording, like nobody gets it. We say that all the time, right? Like every probably autism mom said that. Nobody gets it unless you're living it. But I think too, it's like the next level is those moms, and they're not better or worse. There's no judgment, but those moms that didn't just take the developmental pediatrician's guidance, right? It's the moms that fight. Like those are the moms that I just truly connect with, which is why I feel like those Malillo moms were like our own breed, as we say, right? Like we're a little crazy but nothing's going to get in our way. But it's true. Even though your journey with Elena is different than Declan, my journey with Declan, it's like we still just get each other on a different level than anyone who doesn't live this. And you do need those people around you. I mean, I know even like you're in Brazil, I'm in the US, like, okay, cool. Like we are so connected, it doesn't matter. It's because this is like the most important thing in our life, right? Like our family and fighting to make sure and advocating to make sure that our children have the most chance and opportunity for success in life.
Exactly. That's it.
Well, why don't we end here? This has been amazing. I know hopefully you'll come back because this is always fun when we get to just hang out and chat because we don't normally do this otherwise. But
yes, I would love to come back.
I feel like I don't feel like we can talk enough about the importance of where our kids are, which means where we are, right? Like, as I said, I think on my last episode that I posted, I said, like, for the first time in a very long time, I literally feel like I can go out and socialize with other moms or friends. Like, I actually want to. I remember one time sitting in a lacrosse field for my oldest, and Declan and my husband were down in Florida. We had swapped off for 1 week. We swapped out. So I was with my oldest, and, I was sitting alone, and a friend, like we were kind of new to the program, but she was like, "Oh, come down here. We're all sitting down here." And I was like, yeah. And I couldn't stand to, like, I couldn't handle even being around like easy banter. Like I couldn't handle talking about what you had for dinner because I felt like I was fighting for my child's life, and like that's like the deep cave that I was in. And I was so heavy emotionally all the time to feel now like, oh my God, he's great. He's probably going to be the most successful out of all my kids, like he'll be more successful than Tim and I, like he's changing the world, to go from where I was, again, it felt like in this deep cave alone and not being able to even, like, I could barely say hello, let alone come sit with you guys. Like, I can't even imagine, to now being where we are. And like, I went out for a mom's night out the other night, and like, I didn't even talk about Declan. Yeah, other than that he's doing great, like
awesome.
And I was like, holy cow, this is crazy. Like, I didn't know that I would ever get to that place. And it's a place I want to be because it's so much happier. It's so much lighter. I feel like my husband and I are now not just talking about Declan, and like how we're going to fight for him. And that was mostly me talking about that. My husband's like, just talk about something else. Like, I need a break from it. But like, I just mentally, I couldn't. And so that's just another piece of it is I think when you're a mom and you get that diagnosis and you quickly realize no one is going to give you guidance, you've got to figure it out. You better get behind that bus and start driving. It's like so overwhelming. And I really didn't know if I was going to come out of it. And now I am out of it. And that doesn't mean, again, there aren't challenging days, but it means there's so many.
Intensity is different. It's not the
so
same.
Different.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's just I want other moms to get where I am, but everyone has to go through it.
Exactly. But there's hope.
There's hope.
Look at us. Look at us here.
All right. Well,
it'll get better.
Yes, just stay the course. Know that there's other moms out there going through the exact same thing. Like You're not alone.
That you're not alone, because that's a good point. My experience was exactly like yours, Diane, exactly like yours. And it was so heavy, such a heavy load. And I felt that I was carrying it all by myself, and it was very lonely. Yes. And I felt that I was like I don't know how the world kept going on, thinking of other things and doing other things. And I was just so taken by this.
Yeah.
And so that's it. So other moms are not alone.
Yes. Even when you feel it, you're not alone. And finding that community of people that
Yes.
you really do connect with is so important to your own survival. And then
Yes.
also being open to the journey, right? Like you just got to walk it. You got to go through it.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, it's been amazing. You're the best. This is
Thank
so
you.
fun.
You're the best. Thank you for this opportunity.
Like you're always welcome here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great day. Talk to you everybody soon. Bye-bye.